Hello and welcome to another edition of Rail Rangers on the Road. The Midwest Rail Rangers, our 501c3 nonprofit organization, presents onboard educational programs across the Midwest. You may have caught us on the South Shoreline between Chicago and South Bend, Indiana, aboard the Sky Parlor car at the Wisconsin Great Northern, on an Amtrak charter organized by the 20th Century Railroad Club of Chicago, on private rail excursions featuring heritage equipment, and at various outreach events such as Train Fest and Mad City Rail. In March of 2020, the coronavirus sidelined most of our programs. After taking a few months off, we returned with virtual programs, taking you to exciting rail destinations across Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, and Wisconsin. With 2021 now here, we hope to begin the transition back to doing in-person programs. During the months ahead, though, we will continue to bring you new virtual programs as well. So sit back and relax and enjoy another edition of Rail Rangers on the Road. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome here in Midwest Rail Rangers, another one of our virtual education programs. I'm Midwest Rail Rangers President Robert TABERN here with you. It is Sunday night, March the 7th, 2021, and we hope you are enjoying our three-part series, a look at the National Railroad Museum in Green Bay. Just about 4 weeks ago, we did our first virtual education program here, where we took you on a tour inside the museum. 2 weeks ago, back on February 21st, we got an inside look with their education director, a look at some of the behind the scenes. And now our third part tonight, we're going to take you actually on a train ride. We figure it's about time for our third and final part. We're going to do 2 loops tonight around the loop track here at National Railroad Museum in Green Bay. I think Candace is standing just over there, and we're about ready to take off. All aboard!
Well, hello and welcome to the Rail Rangers virtual tour. We're here at the National Railroad Museum and we're about to take you on a ride. So let's hop aboard and we'll go for our ride today.
I'm glad you have them, otherwise I have to make them push.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
And
If
then,
you want to face this way, then you don't have to turn around as much.
can we sit over here?
If you can sit this way, I'd appreciate it, because I'm going to have a bigger group that'll be sitting there.
All right.
Well, those trains don't move.
Sure.
Those trains can move. Those trains you can just go look at, and there's a whole bunch of them.
Thank
you for riding the train today. My name is Al, so if you have any questions, just give a yell and I'll be happy to answer them for you. One thing about railroads that's a little bit different than what the airlines are, we do follow a schedule. I said that 2 weeks ago, and a gal came up to me and said, "Oh, I am a pilot for United." And I said, "Whoops." And she kind of chuckled, and I said, well, how many times this year have you taken off on time? She said, I remember once. We do go around twice. On the first time around, we will be stopping by a red boxcar that's got a lot of hobo symbols on it. When we stop there, I will explain what all those symbols mean. And, prior to that, once the train starts moving, and I'll let you know when we're going to start out, I do need everybody to stay seated at all times. Everything on here is pretty hard, and our bodies don't match up well with it. The National Railroad Museum here was established in 1956 by an act of Congress. We were fortunate enough here in Green Bay that we had a congressman who lived here. And when we started collecting the engines and the cars, he got the bill passed through Congress that this would be named the National Railroad Museum. So there can never be another National Railroad Museum by the name in the country. The depot in front of us was built in 1962. Can you hear me in the back of the car? Or the front of the car? Okay, thanks. We go both directions, and I got a little bit turned around here. The depot was built in 1962. It is an exact replica of one from Langley, South Carolina. The one in Langley was built in the mid-1850s. Back then, depots had a ticket area where they sold the tickets from. Then they had a seating area where the people could sit and wait. And then they had a baggage or storage area where your baggage and your luggage and everything, and any freight that was getting loaded on the train could go. We've still got 2 more minutes before we leave. For anybody that's interested, straight across from us there's a purple car, a silver car, and then the car in front of us, and then there's a green and yellow one in this pavilion over here that's open on the end. Those are all cars we use for the Polar Express. The Polar Express tickets will be going on sale July 25th, just 6 months before Christmas. They'll be going on sale at 10 in the morning, so if you are interested, it's a good idea to kind of jump on them. Last year they sold out in a day and a half. This year with COVID, we're running a few more shows. We have 3 shows every night, and we're going to have shows starting the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday before Thanksgiving, then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday after Thanksgiving, and then the next 2 weekends it'll be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Now out in front of the depot and then right in front of us there's some green wagons with red wheels. Those were built for Railway Express. Railway Express was a precursor to like UPS and FedEx and Speedy. Those wagons are the same height as boxcars and semis, so they could just load something on there and then just run it over to the train or the semi and unload it. I am going to be telling the engineer she can start out now, so everybody please stay seated. Okay, we are starting out. Now, on the second time around, we won't be stopping at the depot as we go by, but I'll be happy to take pictures for anybody that does want pictures taken of your group. The only thing I do ask is if you take your mask off so nobody thinks you're robbing our train. This first car we're coming to is called the Jordan Spreader. The Jordan Spreader was used to drop the rocks, or what we call ballast, between the rails. That way they wouldn't get washed away when there was a hard rain or flood or anything. The wings on the side were used as a snowplow, so it had two uses. Then as we're coming around, the last car that we come to is one from Railway Express. Like I said, Railway Express was a precursor to UPS, FedEx, and Speedy. But they had a policy that they wanted their car to be the first one right behind the engine and tender. Well, FedEx hauled mail, passengers, freight, animals. When the West was being developed, they hauled a lot of dynamite, so that means we'd be sitting right behind the car full of dynamite. Because that was the deal. Now, I'm only going to ask you to turn around 3 times. This is the first time. This flat area we're coming to, we have a lot of weddings here. This year it's down quite a bit. Last year we had 16 of them. This year we've only had 2 because of the COVID situation. You can see the altar there. But we also have what we call our Great Pumpkin Tree. The first weekend of October, we will put about 1,500 pumpkins out in this field. And we bring everybody around, and then the kids can go pick out a pumpkin, bring it home, and they can carve it up or do whatever they want. That's going to be the first weekend in October. Now the tower we're coming to, it's 86 feet high. There's 100 steps, and if you're a Packer fan, you can climb to the top and get a great view of Lambeau Field. Otherwise, you can get a good view of the Green area. This first building we're coming to that says National Railroad Museum on it, we've got 2 interesting pieces of equipment in there. There's the Big Boy steam engine. The Big Boy steam engines were the largest ones that were ever built. They're so long that they can't go around curves like we're going around. So they actually have a pin in the middle of it, and the front end of the engine goes around, and then the back end follows it. There are 25 of them built, and we have 1 of them. The other piece of equipment is the Eisenhower train. It is the train that Dwight Eisenhower used during World War II as his command post as the Allies worked their way through Europe. Right in this area 2 years ago, there was a mother duck with 9 little ducklings that crossed the tracks. She got everybody across, and for some reason she turned and headed back just as the engine got here. Unfortunately, we hit her. There were 4 of us chasing the little ducklings around, but either they're awful fast or we're awful slow. But the next day I was the conductor here, and here was a mother goose with 4 goslings and 9 little ducklings following her, so she did adopt them all. Now the back end of the McCormick Pavilion here is where we have a lot of our, well, the whole building, we have engines and cars in here that you can climb up in and take a look at. Behind us is the Fox River. It's one of only a couple rivers in the northern hemisphere that actually flow north into a body of water. The Fox River flows into the Bay of Green Bay, which flows into Lake Michigan. This white building that's right next to the McCormick Pavilion is where we do a lot of our renovations in. Right now we've got a hospital car from the World War I era. We've got it completely stripped down and sandblasted and repainted. We'll be putting the seats and the beds and the walls back in, and hopefully have it ready for, I don't think we'll get it done for this summer, but probably next year. The rails are squeaky right now because it rained last night and get a little bit of rust on them, and we have to kind of wear that off, unfortunately. Now we're just starting to go over a little creek. It's called Dutchman's Creek, but I call it the Chocolate Malt River most of the time, but right now it's a little bit green, so I call it the Shamrock-shaped river. Probably not green next time. This bridge we're going over, we call an invisible bridge. The reason is it's the same width as the car is that we're riding on. So when you look down, it looks like we're just floating over the water. Wheel squeaking. These woods we're going by right now, we used to have a lot of Civil War reenactments, but they built Heritage Hill State Park across the river from us, and that's where they've got the original Fort from Fort Howard. And unfortunately, they went over there. Now we're going by the haunted house. This haunted house is called the Terror on the Fox. It's one of the top 15 attendance-wise in the country. This first building we're looking at is the Haunted Chapel, and then the red and green barn is where they sell food and drinks from. Now we are going to be, the engineer's going to be blowing the horn, so anybody with tender ears, please cover them. This is all part of the haunted house. It's called Terror on the Fox. These two cars we're going by came to us at the same time the one in front of us did. The only thing is, the one in front of us was in a much better shape than these were, so we can use it to bring passengers back and forth. Okay, we are going to be stopping up at this boxcar, and on this end of the boxcar is a picture of a bird. I will explain what all these markings mean once we stop. So I'll let you know once the brakes are set and you can stand up. Okay, everybody, the brakes are set. If you want to stand up, you can now. Now, this picture of the bird that's on this end of the boxcar, that told hobos that the people that lived there had a telephone, and if they wanted to use the phone, if they asked them and were nice to them, they'd let them use the phone. Now, hobos had their own sign language. They all understood what everything meant, so they would know what was going on. They would put these markings on houses, on barns, on billboards, on rocks, on boxcars, anything that they knew was going to be there for a while. Under the far right side, or on the far right side, underneath the ladder is the letters L written twice. That's just the initials of the person who wrote this stuff. The upside down Y tells hobos that there was a constable or a marshal or a sheriff in that town, and if they didn't have a means of making money, they'd be put in jail. The 3 vertical and the 3 horizontal lines meant there was a jail there. But jail wasn't all bad for hobos, because if it was a crummy day, they'd at least be inside and have a dry, warm bed to sleep in, and they'd also get a hot meal. Then just to the right of the open door is a rectangle with a dot in it. That told hobos that there was some type of danger there. The wavy lines underneath meant it was water, so either the water was undrinkable or else it was flowing too fast for them to take their bath in. On the left side of the door is a boxcar with the name Betty under it. There was a female hobo by the name of Boxcar Betty. Now, being females and running around with the hobos wasn't as dangerous as you might think it would be for women. male hobos had a code of ethics that they protected all women. So if they ever saw some woman that was being hassled or whatever by somebody, they'd step in and correct the situation for her. Then the next one is Bozo the Clown, and I'm not sure who Bozo is.
Robert Neal.
The last one says Hood Junction with an arrow and an engine. That just told hobos that there was a railroad nearby that they could hop on to go wherever the train was going. On the far end of the boxcar, there's a kitten. Now, what that meant to hobos was that the people that lived there were very friendly, and if they asked them, they'd get a handout. They'd either give them some money or some food. I had a gentleman on here 2 weeks ago, and he was telling me that his grandparents always had hobos coming up to him asking for a handout. And he kind of chuckled when I said that they had the marking of the kitten, and he said, I remember there was a kitten drawn on one of the rocks in our front yard. And he said, I wish Grandma and Grandpa were alive to know why they were always getting hobos coming in asking for handouts. Now this will be the last time I'll ask you to turn around. This frame behind us with the orange fencing, that's where the people that are going to be going to the haunted house line up. We do pick them up, we bring them around, and actually we make a trip about every 20 minutes. We'll pick up approximately 200 people, bring them all the way around, and then back over where the haunted house is there. They would get off, and then they'd be in line to go through the haunted house. So on weekdays, we run the train from 7 o'clock at night until 10 at night. And then on weekends, we go from 7 till 11. Most of the time, it's a little longer than that because there'll be a line up here. Like I say, we get about 200 people on the train for each trip. So we get about 600 people each hour, and we're there 3 hours during the week, so we get about 1,800 people. At this point, does anybody have any questions? Okay, I'm going to ask you one. Does anybody know where the term hobo came from? It means homeward bound. Now, hobos were pretty prevalent after the Civil War and during the Great Depression. During the Great Depression, there were a lot of men who didn't have jobs that lived in the cities, and they'd hop on the trains and they'd ride them out to the farm country and they'd work for the farmer. They'd get paid and they'd get fed, so it worked out pretty good for them. But after the Civil War was over, now these guys had marched thousands of miles. Most of them were from northern states and were now down south somewhere. They'd fought in a bunch of battles, and now the government said, well, thanks for your service, find your own way home. So I'm sure they didn't feel like walking too much anymore. So a lot of them hopped trains and would take the train wherever it was going and then hop on another train to end up getting home finally. Okay, I am going to tell the engineer she can start out, so everybody please get seated. I just gave the engineer the signal she could highball. Before railroads had radios in them, they used to always go by signals. So there was always a pole at every depot, and there was a pulley system with a ball on it. If the ball was down low, that told the engineer that they had to stop there to pick up freight or passengers. If the ball was up high, that meant they could start out or they could keep going and didn't have to stop at that depot. Okay, now if you look on this end of the car, here's the picture of the tip. This flat area we're going by right now is the site of the second sawmill in Wisconsin. They cut up the boards and everything for all the buildings and houses. Before 1900, Green Bay was split in two. The east side was Green Bay and the west side was Fort Howard. Around 1900, they merged the two of them and everything became Green Bay. That's why we don't have the football Packers, I guess. We won't be blowing the horn again until we come around by those cars again, so you can uncover your ears for any little ones. Last year when the water was real low, there was a big rock right down here. And there was a snapping turtle that was about 2.5 feet in diameter. His neck was bigger than my arms are. And he didn't look like he was real friendly, but I did ask the county, talk to the guy in charge of letting us know what animals are and everything. And he said he figured that snapping turtle was probably about 80 years old. Does anybody want to go swimming in the green water?
No, I don't.
Now, as we go over this little crossing that we just started to go across, if you look in the McCormick Pavilion, that's the open air one. There's on the left side, there's a silver engine that's kind of poking its nose out a little bit. That's called the Aero Train. The Aero Train was developed in the early 1950s by General Motors. It was designed to be able to compete with the airlines, because the airlines were taking a lot of freight and passenger business away from the railroads. The engine was designed to go about 90 miles an hour. The only problem was the cars that it pulled were only good for about 50 miles an hour. So the ride was extremely rough. They only built 3 of them, and they scrapped one of them right away. Of the other 2, we've got one with 2 cars, and there's one in St. Louis. That's the only ones that are left. Now, as soon as we get past the depot, I'll come around and I can start taking pictures for you. Again, I just ask that you take your masks down so nobody thinks you're robbing our train.
pictures?
Oh, we're good, thank you. Yeah.
So we got all the pictures and we didn't pack any lenses, so it's a good day. Okay, right now we're going by the platform where we drop all the passengers off that want to go through the haunted house. This path with the yellow ropes on it, when we do have people that get off here at the platform, most times it's shoulder to shoulder waiting to go through the haunted house.
Not this year.
This first building is the Haunted Chapel, and the red barn is where we sell food and drinks from. And then the big black building, and that whole thing is part of the haunted house. Now she is going to be blowing the horn normally twice. Should be about now. And then she's going to blow it 3 times. That's all the times we'll be blowing the horn. riding with us, and thank you for attending the museum. I hope you walk around and take a look at all the cars and engines that we have here. Go in the Lancaster Center and take a look at all the equipment that's inside. We do have a fundraiser that we're promoting right now that we want to replace the McCormick Pavilion and in effect make a roundhouse that we'd be able to keep all of our equipment in there in a temperature and humidity controlled building, because right now we do a lot of work on renovating things, and with the humidity and everything here, they start to look a little tough after a short time. Now as we get back here, please stay seated until I tell you it's safe to get up. Sometimes we have to move forward a little bit just so everybody can get off in the platform in the right place. Seated yet. Don't stay seated yet. Okay, everybody, it's safe to get off. Again, thank you very much for riding with us and attending the museum today.
Well, thanks for riding with us today. I hope you enjoyed that ride here at the National Railroad Museum. And now we're going to hand it over to Robert for the rest of the tour.
All right, we certainly had fun tonight, didn't we? We got to do a loop, around 2 loops around here. Got to see some of the beautiful scenery up here in northeast Wisconsin at the National Railroad Museum in Green Bay. Definitely had fun. And this wraps up our 3-part look at the National Railroad Museum in Green Bay. I hope you enjoyed, again, the first part, look at the museum we did. Second part, a look at the archives. And then tonight, 2 loops around. Hope you enjoyed taking a virtual train ride with us. As we mentioned, we can't be doing our normal programs because of the virus. We hope to be back with you on a regular schedule somewhat shortly, depending on what's going on. But glad you could be out with us here. And we'll have another virtual education program, another exciting virtual education program 2 weeks from tonight. Will be Sunday, March 21st, 2021. Mark your calendars. And we will be taking you to Rhinelander, Wisconsin. Oh, just about 120 miles that away. And we'll take a look at another train museum they have over in Rhinelander. Again, mark your calendars. 2 weeks from tonight, Sunday, March 21st, 2021. We'll take you over to Rhinelander, Wisconsin. For Robert TABERN, Candace TABERN, and the rest of the Midwest Rail Rangers, hope to see you soon. All aboard.